Hello and welcome to the shop. Today I've got a piece of palm that was sent to me by Louis Courrier. Now, any of you who have turned palm know that it's an extremely difficult wood to turn. You always hear wood explained as a whole bunch of straws that are bound together, and that's exactly what palm is, except those straws are much larger, more susceptible to tear out. I think with a blank like this, what we will do is we will get it close and then we will sand it to final dimension, because it's going to be a challenging turn. But I think we're ready for it. I'm excited about it. So let's get to the lathe and let's see what we can make. Louis Courrier sent this blank to me, and he sent it to me, I believe, with the intention of it being a practice blank, just something to kind of goof around with, because he was turning it himself, and I think he just really wanted to see how it turned for me and what I did to turn it. But, you know, I can't take a piece of wood like this because I've only got the one and make it a practice blank. I actually have got to try to turn something out of it. That's just the way that I am. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to turn a seam ripper from this palm. Trued the wood up, and I've taken quite a bit of meat away from the blank, and it is really just chipping out. I mean, this is worse than punky wood. It's so soft. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it aside. I've got some thin CA glue on order, should be here soon, and I'm going to put this back on the lathe, and I'm going to lightly drizzle some CA on here just to sort of lock all this together. And then we'll turn a little bit and use a little more CA, and I really think I can make this blank work. But if I keep going with the way it's chipping out, I'm not going to have much left. So I'm going to put this one on hold temporarily. What I decided to do to kind of help with this blank is I have a product called Minwax Wood Hardener, and I have covered the blank in wood hardener, and I just used another blank and some tape to hold it down because it's very light and it wants to float. I'm going to let it set overnight and soak up as much of the wood hardener as it can. Then we'll take it out, we'll let it dry, and once dry, I'm hoping it'll be better stabilized and much easier to turn, and I can avoid a majority of this tear out. Here's my palm blank. I put it in this container, And I poured a little Minwax wood hardener in, and I was going to let it set overnight, soak it up, and then pour the remainder back into the bottle, but I forgot about it, and it set over the weekend while I was out of town. It's still pretty squishy, so it's not dried all the way through, and I don't know that it ever will, but what I'm going to do is pull this blank out of the wood hardener. It's already, yeah, as you can see, it's kind of pretty loose. I'm just going to pull it out of the wood hardener and set it somewhere and let it finish drying, and then we'll get this back on the lathe, and it should turn really well. Now, it's soaked up a ton of the wood hardener. I've got my palm blank back on the lathe. I soaked it in some Minwax wood hardener, and I'll tell you, when I put it in the solution, it sucked it up like a dry sponge. So that tells me that it really got inside of this blank. I meant to leave it set overnight, and I forgot about it, and it ended up setting over the weekend, so it has quite a bit of the wood hardener in it, and it was sticky for several days. It took several days for it to dry out. So we're going to turn a little bit today, and if we find that it's sticky inside, we'll stop and just come back to it when it gets a chance to dry. But let's see what we can do with it. Overall, I'm really happy with how this blank turned. It's a bit tacky, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to avoid sanding for the time being. I'm going to lay it aside, let it dry for a couple of more days, because I think the exterior was dry, but it hadn't dried all the way through. It looks pretty good. The only spot I really see is I've got a little mark right there, a little divot, but I could put some CA in there, and there's some grain showing right there. I think if I come back and touch those two spots up with some CA, and there's one there, just a couple little marks, once I let this dry a little bit, I think I can sand it up, and I think it'll look pretty good. I've given this blank several days to dry, and it's not tacky at all. It feels perfectly dry. There's a little divot there, scuff mark there, divot there. I think I'm going to go ahead and take some medium CA and kind of fill a few of these little divots before I start sanding. That way I can, as I sand it down, I can clean them right up. What I'm going to do is hit that with a little accelerator first, and my hope is that doing that will allow the CA to dry underneath as well as on top. There's the other mark right there. Let's try the same thing. I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but I don't think it's going to hurt. There we go. And really, those two spots were the only two bad spots that I had. That wood hardener really did a nice job of stiffening this blank up. I'm going to let it set and dry for a few minutes, then I'll come back and we'll sand her down. I've sanded the blank down to 400 grit, and I'm very happy with the finish I have. I'm going to go ahead now and clean it up and apply a little CA glue. This will be my fourth coat of thin CA, and I will let you know that I'm assuming it had something to do with the wood hardener, but I had to use a little accelerator between coats because it didn't seem to want to dry. It was staying tacky. That's looking really nice. I mean, really nice. I'm going to go ahead and apply maybe two more coats of the thin, and then I'm going to move up to the medium because I've got a few. This palm is really soft, and there are a few divots I can see as I look at this blank from the side. Like there's one right there, and there, and there. And I think I can fill those in with two, maybe three coats of medium, and level this out real nice. But I want to have a good base of thin on there before I do. Blank really feels nice. That helped out. It's nice and level across the surface. It's just I've got a couple of divots, and I think they're going to fill in very nicely with this medium. Yeah, it's already looking better. They're starting to fill. This is going to be good. As I look slowly at the blank, I still got one right there. It's not very deep. The rest of them are just about gone. I'm hoping one more coat, maybe two at the most, and I should have this. It's kind of nice. If you look at the blank from the side, you can generally see, because the light reflecting down, you can generally see any marks. And really, the only mark I see is right there in the center. There's a little dimple, and maybe a little dimple right there. Beyond that, this blank looks really nice. I'm going to hit her with one more coat of medium and take another look. I tell you what, Everything looks fantastic. This dimple over here is gone. I still have that it's just ever so small right there. It's getting smaller every time. I'm going to do another coat. We're going to keep filling until she's perfectly level, and when she's perfectly level, we'll polish her up with the micro mesh. Oh wow, it's almost done. One more coat, I guarantee we're done, because it is just about finished. I can just see the ever so slightly a dip in there. So one more coat and I think we are good to go. Just basically concentrating really on the middle. I'll wipe out to the edges, but that's where my problem is in the middle. So all right, let me take a peek at this. It's gone. That's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. All right, let me get some fresh water and get these non-stick bushings off, get the regular bushings back on, and we'll micro mesh this and polish it. I'm ready to micro mesh my seam ripper, and I should be able to polish a little more aggressively than I normally do because of the sheer number of coats of medium CA that I put on this thing. It should be able to take it, and that's going to give me a really nice glass smooth surface. Looks really nice. Looking at it from the side, I can't see any divots, any indentions. It's got quite a few fuzzies on it though. The paper towel was starting to come apart on me, I think. All right, let's get the polish out and polish her up. And that looks absolutely amazing. I tell you what, for a wood that is so difficult to turn, a wood hardener made all the difference in the world. I'm really happy with this. Let me get the pieces and put it together. Seam rippers are some of the easiest items to assemble. You're going to have two of these little metal clips. There's one for each end. You just kind of squeeze it together. Then you fit it right into the end of the seam ripper and just feed it all the way back in until it's level. I'll stick it back on the mandrel for a second. I'll grab the other one. I'm going to roll it up, flip this over, feed it into the opposite end. We have our ripper, which we'll put into, this end's a little larger. I always have one end that's a little larger, and I put the ripper in that end, and then I'll flip it over, and I've got the stiletto, which is for picking the threads out, and I usually put that into this end. And that gives me a beautiful seamstress tool. Anybody who quilts or sews would love to have this, and the palm is such an interesting looking wood. I really do like the look of it. I'd like to thank you for joining me in the shop for this project, and I would like to thank Louis Courrier. Louis sent me this blank. He had been working with some palm in his shop, and he contacted me and said, hey, I'd like to see what you do with it. It's difficult to work with, but would you be interested in trying it? And of course I was. I always love a good challenge, so I told him I'd love to try it. He sent me 2 blanks, and Louis, thank you so much. I think this seam ripper turned out fantastic. I like the fact that I have the extra coats of CA on there because it makes it look really thick. It's like this really deep luster to it. And the wood is beautiful too. I mean, when you look at all the different pattern and the grain, and there's some dark spots in there that are kind of neat, I think this is going to be really, someone's going to really appreciate having this in their quilting box or their sewing kit. I'd like to thank you for joining me in the shop. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Have a great evening and come back and see me again real soon. Take care, everybody.